Hello, and welcome to my video for the REVS Origins event. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how I got into cars and where my automotive journey began. You see, long before my 1930 Ford Model A hot rod, I had another little red car in my life, my 1976 Austin Mini 1000. I have a very troubled relationship with my dad, but it was one of the few good things he did for me when he found it on a notice board at work, and we went to take a look. £300 later, I was driving it back, my first drive alone. But it wasn't really my family that got me into cars like most. It seems that normally a family member would introduce them, or they have a particularly good memory of an old car their parents had. We had a few quirky ones, a Rancho, a 2CV and others, but it wasn't really a thing at the time. My granddad was responsible for my love of motorbikes, and he was interested in cars, but not to any massive degree. Although it was his Cortina estate that was my first experience behind the wheel. I would have to say it began with my drawing. I have always used art as an expression, and I used to draw insanely extravagant designs of cars that had hotels, swimming pools and helicopter pads. I think I was about 5 when I decided I would grow up to be a car designer, and from that moment every decision I made in my life was aimed squarely at that goal. Of course, the first medium I could use to create these ideas was Lego, and that epic journey is a long and interesting story for another day. But as a teenager, I was obsessed with car customization. I used to flick between Max Power and Mini World, dreaming of the day I could express myself on 4 wheels. Minis were cheap, they still are to an extent, but being able to swap all 4 wheels and tyres for 50 quid meant I knew exactly what car I would choose to live out my car design dreams. The Mini was my escape. It allowed me freedom from the troubles I was having at home. It served as my bed for the night on numerous occasions, but more positively, it also introduced me to the people who would save me from these troubles and become lifelong friends. It was more than a car. I love that people stop to talk to me about the car, the memories it evokes for them about past family members or trips they took as a kid. And it was these interactions after purchasing the Red Peril that I vowed never to own a boring car. I've never really been into one particular brand or vehicle. I'm not a VW guy or a Mini fan. I truly do love all manner of vehicles. Which goes to explain my somewhat eclectic collection of cars I've owned. It was the Mini that taught me to drive. When you have the security and comfort sat next to you of an instructor, you don't really learn to drive. The Mini meant I had to learn how to drive all over again, how to position a car, carry the speed, and take corners safely. As an 18-year-old, you could learn to race, without really pushing any limits or breaking any laws. I learned quite quickly how to work on a car too. These old things don't come without a price. And it's by no means my favourite thing, and it's certainly not why I have it, but it's a necessary evil. I hadn't been brought up with that, but fortunately, when I needed a new engine, a friend's father stepped up and helped me, setting to work replacing the motor with an MG Metro unit. He provided the tools and a bit of space and showed me that nothing was impossible. The Mini doesn't really have much left from that first rendition. Over time, most of it has been replaced or upgraded. I think the steering wheel may be one of the few bits, but regardless, the car itself still evokes that same joy. It's just as much a novelty now as it was when I was a young sixth form student piling in 4 of my mates and bombing around the Suffolk coast. Not really something I can do today as my mates have all grown and the suspension's a bit lower. So, the engine is a 1275 MG Metro unit. It's got a very lumpy cam in it and a few other little tweaks. It's not fast, but it's fast enough to keep you on your toes. The suspension is adjustable with negative camber and uprated dampers all round. It's got Cooper S discs and Revolution alloy wheels with those A008s that I could only dream of as a teenager, And inside, it's classic and basic. The seat set way back, drop steering column, the original radio, and a full-width winky blink panoramic rear view mirror. Something I'd seen on a few 70s race cars and thought it was so ridiculous, I had to have one. The stripes are a latter addition. I hadn't developed that signature until Old Red came along, but that's all on my previous video. This car taught me a lot when I was young, and 20 years later it's still teaching me one important lesson, that I should not take life too seriously. Every time I jump behind the wheel, I'm that carefree 18-year-old again. That hot, oily smell, the raspy exhaust and the intake whoosh all keep my senses busy and offer me an escape from whatever troubles I may be dwelling on at the time. My first car was the one that started it all for me, and I'm pretty sure in another 20 years I will be reflecting on it again with the exact same warmth of emotions.